You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
You're watching West Hartford Community Television.
For the community, by the community.
Well, 'tis the season, and what better way to start the season than with the concert series at Beth El Temple. And to talk about the upcoming concert, we have Ilian Freund, who is the co-chairman of the music series at Beth El Temple, and of course, Cantor Joseph Nez, who is the artistic/musical director of Beth El Temple. I noticed the name of this concert on December the 20th is It's All Relative. What does that mean?
Well, it just so happens that two of the big pieces that we're doing, we tried to get people who played together, had some history of playing together, because the two concertos, one is a concerto for 3 instruments and one is a concerto for 2 instruments. So I figured if they knew each other before playing the concerto, that would work. And so it just so happens that we're doing the Mozart Symphony Concertante, one of the great concertos for violin and viola, in my mind, So are
apex. These people relatives?
They're married. Anton Miller and Rita Porphyris are honored and beloved teachers at the Hart School, and they happen to be married.
And are there any other relatives in this concert?
Oh, absolutely. So for the triple concerto, that's a concerto with the piano, cello, and violin. We have 3 sisters playing.
So you have a husband and wife,
and 3
sisters. And what about Cantor Ness?
Well, you know, I'm related to everybody, so it seems whether I want to be or not. No, you know, I just happen to be at the concert, so I'll sing my songs, and then I call him a brother, because he certainly is an incredibly wonderful musician, someone who the great fortune of working with, both as musician and friend, and that's Floyd Higgins, the organist.
Are these concepts that travel all across the musical world, and you do this in different parts of the country?
We have some wonderful people in our BEMA organization that runs these concerts, that come up with these ideas. The person that came up with this idea is Elisa Wagner. She's an idea person, and it's a pleasure for me to have her work
so
with
she
me
was sort of the inspiration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. She comes up with these wonderful.
Well, the other part
concepts.
This concert that I find a little unusual is you have Handel, Mozart, Beethoven, and Joe Engel. Who the hell is Joe Engel?
Well, let me just say first about the Handel. That's an organ concerto, and this year happens to be the 50th, I guess, anniversary of when we've had an organ.
Yes,
so like
yes.
a month or a little more than a month ago, we did a concert of organ concertos, and that was kind of part 1 of the festival, and this is kind of part 2. So and there'll be probably another concert with organ later on in the year. So we want to highlight what an organ can do. As far as Joel Engel is concerned, he's a composer that really, for me, is someone who I love, someone who brings just these emotions out in me that other composers don't. He was a friend of Tchaikovsky in Moscow, was a reviewer, a newspaper guy, also a composer.
I think he wrote for Ruski Vedomosti.
And he was also, more important to me, was part of the St. Petersburg Jewish Composer Association.
The Music Arts Society, I think.
Oh boy,
right?
you've done your research.
Well, I have a great teacher here, Ilian. I mean, she teaches
and the thing
me.
With that organization was that not that there were that many composers, but they were composers who tried to take Jewish folk music and make it, build it to something a little more than folk music, and they actually composed melodies.
So he was the originator of. I mean,
he's
given credit.
One of the people that originated it.
So what's the connection, though? You have Mozart, you have Handel, and you have Beethoven, and Joel.
Well, look, I am the cantor in the synagogue,
right.
So that's part of it. You know, that these songs are in Hebrew. I find that historically, I'll give you an example of one concert I did. We invited a wonderful cantor from New York, Yossi Malavani, and we did a concert of Russian music. But that involves some of the highlights of the Russian Ashkenazic tradition, traditional cantorial music with all the florid passages and the singing. But that's just a part of that culture. So we had recitatives by Rivlin and Reutemann, and then right after that I had the Rachmaninoff Second Piano Concerto. So, but it doesn't put a certain culture, okay, we're just doing that. It's part of society they live in. So obviously Rachmaninoff knew Tchaikovsky, who knew Joel Engel. So there's I'm not talking about this concert.
Could it be it's all relative?
Absolutely, in that sense.
It's all relative.
But for me, it's so important. And one other point about that: if I do Jewish music, what most people, I'm speaking ad lib now, their ideas of Jewish music are, a piano, a clarinet, a klezmer, a little clarinet, and the cantor maybe singing in tune, a little slightly out of tune, but that's the concert.
I like that.
Well, there you go.
In fact, I notice you're wearing the klezmer hat.
I find that when we do the Jewish music, and then we supplement it with music from Western tradition or whatever, you can even do African music or other, it puts the Jewish music in much more of a repertoire thing. So the audience member says, after that first half of the concert, the Russian one I'm talking about, we've heard Rivlin, that, and Reutemann, and Rachmaninoff. They don't go, oh, it's the Jewish music, then we heard Rachmaninoff. See, so it raises the level of the Jewish music to something that is, quite frankly, not done very often these days.
I went to your last concert. I think you had like 400 or 500 people. And the music series was with Leon Brodsky and also Carolyn Chan. And you had a movie.
We did the Wagner Siegfried Idol.
That's right. And you had a movie. It wasn't the traditional concert series.
Well, that wasn't a concert. That was a lecture.
Called? Well, that was like the part of the university.
University
which was
but see, the thing is, when I do a lecture, I want to bring music to the people. So doing a lecture and talking about music, something is just not totally, for lack of a better word, kosher with that. I want to demonstrate. So you play the music, and then you have a much more visceral idea, and maybe less intellectual idea, but more visceral about what the story is.
So when I went to that, I mean, I was bowled over just because the movie, the lecture, the Leon Brodsky, the Carolyn Kahn, it was sort of like multimedia for a concert, and I felt that it was very elevating. Nowadays they talk about going to the lowest common denominator. I felt it went to the highest common denominator.
I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I was floored by it all, and they were so brilliant. Leon Brodsky from Bard College. Botstein. I mean, it was. Talk to me a little bit about the music series.
So, back by popular demand, we are going to have a 3-part music series on 3 Wednesday nights, starting February 24th, March 2nd, and March 9th, which will pick up historically where last year's series ended, which is the connection between Hollywood and the Jews, how Hollywood became a very important haven for musicians and artists who are escaping the Holocaust. It will also be very multi-dimensional and will include demonstrations, will include film, as it did last year. The same young filmmaker based in New York, Ilan Warshaw, will be with us presenting a film that he's collaborated on with another movie maker on Hollywood and the Jews.
I think you're on the edge there because you're pushing music out. Most of the time whenever you go to a concert, it's a very pedantic experience for those who are not musically oriented. But with this new type of stuff that you're doing, I mean, I just find it so elevating, but at the same time accessible. Well, and this Joel Engel interests me a lot.
If you come to it's stunningly beautiful music. I mean, I hope I sing it well, but it's really profound. If those of you who don't know Joel Engel's music know the music of, for example, Edvard Grieg, his songs specifically, there's a little bit of that quality to it. It's kind of like this just very warm and heartfelt.
Well, he wrote the music to the Dybbuk,
the Ansky play.
Right, the
classic Yiddish play.
But he didn't write any more music for any plays. I found that unusual.
Well, he wrote a ton of songs. which no one knows about. Some of them are not even published. So, you know, it's part of my duty or my drive to find that music. And, you know, you have to, sometimes you have to go to Russia to find it, but hopefully it's there.
Eliane, are any of his pieces well known by anybody? Joel Engels?
As my 3 children were growing up, I would play popular Israeli music CDs for them. There are 2 that are part of the canon, equivalent of Rockabye Baby, a very famous modern Israeli lullaby, Numi Numi.
What would that sound like? Can we have a little sound bite
Do you
here?
know how it goes?
I don't know.
It goes Numi Numi al dati.
But that's not his melody. That's
Is that his lyrics?
No, it's not his lyrics. It's his arrangement, possibly, of it. Yeah. So he arranged a lot of folk tunes and stuff.
Well, so that's going to be fantastic. And are you going to wear the klezmer hat for this concert? Is that going to be part of it?
Who knows? I don't know. I let a lot up to chance when it comes to
wardrobe.
Yeah.
To wardrobe. So this concert is going to be on December the 20th.
Correct. Sunday at 7 p.m. And I am very excited about our second concert on March 20th, which will be a Sunday matinee. We're trying a new time slot, 4 p.m., in the hopes of attracting younger families with children who sometimes cannot get out any later on a Sunday night.
So that's going to be in tune with Purim, is that?
Correct, the Jewish holiday of Purim, which encourages a lot of merrymaking. So we're looking to make it very participatory and very Broadway and popular hits driven.
Like, like the movie Frozen for the kids. We'll have stuff from that show. And,
very, very nice.
And we're in the planning stages, but it's going to be a fun concert. And maybe we should mention the third one.
The third one is June 5th, Sunday, June 5th. And that happens to be the day where a modern holiday in Israel, Jerusalem Reunification Day, is celebrated since 1967, since there has been access by Jewish people into the old city of Jerusalem after the Six-Day War
in
Israel.
So this is Jerusalem
Reunification Day.
So this must be new. It just had to be since 1967. And is this holiday also being celebrated in America?
Not as much, so we thought it would be a way to highlight it, both musically and with a special dinner that will highlight Israeli cuisine that day.
Right, and the idea was also to have some Israeli wonderful soloists to come in and, you know, just offer what they can do.
Well, so we've heard it today, December the 20th, Beth El Temple, the time?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. And once again, we're talking Beethoven, Mozart, Handel, and of course,
Joel Engel.
Joel Engel. So be there. I'm guaranteeing you're going to have a great experience. It's unusual, it's clever, and it's accessible.